Hello everyone, and welcome to our backyard. I'm really excited today to share with you our shade garden because I did get it planted, the Coleus anyway, and I wanted to share with you my plans for this shade garden. So it's early spring, it's March 21st, and plants are coming up and growing. And I'm real excited because I can see the vision for this shade garden. So, if you followed my channel, you know that I garden along the Texas Gulf Coast south of Houston, and we're in Zone 9. We used to be 9A, now they've reclassified us to Zone 9B. We get lots of rain. In fact, last night we got 2 inches of rain. We have high humidity and we have it hot. And so plants have you have to get plants that are successful in your area. And you hear gardeners say that time and time again, and it's so true. I'm going to put up at the top a video that I did last year of, in this exact area, I planted a bleeding heart and I planted lots of different coral bells or heuchera. I planted hostas, and they did not thrive because they hated the climate. They hated the conditions here, the hot, the heat, the humidity, the heavy clay soil, the gobs and gobs of rain. And so it was not a fun shade garden for a while. But I have found some things that really do like this space. And in this space last year, I had lots of success with Coleus and Caladiums. And so I'm going to go through the plants and show you their tags and talk about what my plans are, because I still have some plants on order. So on the edge of my shade garden, I have potted 2 really nice shrimp plants, and I got these last year and they're just starting to flower. So the shrimp-like bracts are starting to grow, and then underneath is where the bloom is, and that's where the hummingbirds come on from underneath and get at the nectar. So I have 2 shrimp plants, and then I go on into the shade garden. So at my favorite nursery sometime in March when they put out the Coleus, I try to be there to see what they have because they sell out pretty darn quickly. They don't have a lot of selection, meaning, dozens and dozens, but they do have a fairly good selection of Coleus, and I buy them as bedding plants, or if you will, $1.99 little containers. And so those are what I plant that you see that I have planted in the ground. And the first one I want to talk about is this one. I was so excited that they had this Coleus there. If you will notice, I have gone through and I have cut each Coleus down pretty low because I want them to start branching nice and low. And I did not do that last year, and I regretted it. And so getting them in the ground, I right away did that first cut. And the reason I want to talk to you about this particular Coleus, let me show you the tag. This one is called Main Street. It's the Main Street series, Beale Street. And this particular Coleus is a 2020 All-American Selections winner, or an AAS winner. It's the first Coleus ever to be an AAS winner. And that's pretty exciting. It gets to be 12 to 24 inches tall. And this bed right here, I'm hoping it will do very well, and it's a really rich mahogany color. Last year I had a Coleus that I was super excited for, and they had it in the nursery again this year. It was called Ruby Slipper, and Ruby Slipper was a pretty near the same color. But as it grew, it reverted back to its two color. So it wasn't this gorgeous mahogany color. It was a two-tone Coleus. Not that I minded it. I thought it went well, but that's not what I wanted. And I did want this Beale Street. So if I hadn't have found this at my favorite nursery, I would have had to have ordered it, because I did find an online store that I have actually ordered 4 other Coleus from, because I did want to try out this 2020 AAS Winner. So I wanted to specifically talk about that Coleus because I think I'm just really excited for it. So I hope it retains its color. It says it is supposed to. And then what I do is I typically try to just purchase Coleus that I think is striking. And since I went for a chartreuse and then a mahogany color, this one kind of interested me, this Coleus. And this name is, let me pull it up here. It's Stained Glassworks Velvet. This one's going to get a little bit taller, 18 to 30 inches. And I have found that Coleus loves this shade bed. My heuchera and coral bells did not. They did not thrive, but Coleus gives me the color. I can find the color of the foliage that I was hoping to get with the heuchera. And so I just wanted to throw that out for you southern gardeners that do have this challenge of high humidity, high heat, especially along the Gulf Coast. You're going to get lots of rain, and guess what? Tropicals love those conditions. And so this one is, these are firsts for me, and I'm really excited to see what they do in the landscape. The next one is a really interesting pattern, and I grew it last year and I loved it, but I only had 2 of them last year. And so this year I wanted to plant a drift of it. Let me pull up this tag. Oops, sorry about that. This one is called, oops, come on, Riverwalk. And I just love the variegation on this foliage. I think it's so pretty, and you can feel it even in the texture. You'll notice there's some cuts here. We did have some wind yesterday and that 2 inches of rain, so there is a little bit of damage on the leaves, but Coleus recovers very, very nicely. This Coleus is going to get 12 to 24 inches tall, but what I do want to have and say as a caveat to this is my experience down here in our conditions and in our long growing season, in the heat and humidity, all of my Coleus got much larger than that. They branched beautifully, albeit I did cut them a little bit too late. And like I said, this time I cut them down very early when I got them into the ground. And so hopefully they'll branch beautifully here and they'll be a little bit stronger plants. But they do grow taller than what is typically advertised. So I do have my drift of Coleus, and this will actually fill in. So this whole bed, you won't even really see any of the ground. And I have a planter that I moved to this end to break up my lovely green. And in that planter, I've got a Coleus ordered, and I'm not really sure which one I want to put in there. So I have some really distinct and unique Coleuses on order, and whichever one speaks to me, I'm going to plant a couple in that planter. One is more of a trailing Coleus, and the other one is an upright, because I want to kind of break up the beautiful green that I have going on here. And I'm excited for when those come in, because I'm excited to show you what those Coleus look like. Last year I found an online store that specializes in Coleus, and they have over 200 varieties of Coleus. And so I didn't order last year because I had already planted up my shade garden. And so this year I thought, no, I'm doing it. I'm ordering because I want to have different colors and have some bright pops of different color in here. So I'm excited for when those come in and I will show you. Okay, I'm going to go down here and talk about my ground cover. This is doing exactly what I wanted it to do. I love this. Oh, this is called the White-veined Dutchman's Pipevine, or Aristolochia fimbriata. It is gorgeous. I love the coloring. Let me come down. I love the coloring on this leaf. It is just so unique. It is the host plant to the Pipevine swallowtail butterfly, which is a black and iridescent blue butterfly down here. I love this plant. It just grows wonderfully for me here in this shade garden. And I bought more plants last year. And so the plants that I had, I only had 2, and I added one more. And the caterpillars would munch it down. They munch it down like 5 times throughout the year, and it just kept pushing back the leaves, which was wonderful. But I knew that I needed more, definitely needed more area for them. And so I was able to get more plants last summer, and they survived the winter. I babied them and covered them, and they're just, oh, it's just beautiful here. And these are a wonderful ground cover. So I am super excited that this is doing exactly what I was wanting it to do. And then as I look over to my wonderful, oh, I love this plant, and you've heard me talk about this before. I'm going to put up top a video that I did on it. It is called Salvia Madrensis, or Forsythia sage, and I'm going to get a little closer and show this leaf. It is just fantastic. I'm at the back of my bed right now, and Salvia Madrensis has a somewhat a heart-shaped leaf, and look how big this leaf is. These leaves are just stunning. I love the color. I love the texture. I love how large these get. These are native to a mountain range in Mexico, and they love the heat and humidity. They need a little bit of shade for us because they are native a little bit higher in the mountains, and so these thrive in my shade bed. The reason I love this salvia is most of my salvia blooms from spring through fall, and late fall, early winter. This one starts in the fall and blooms all the way till frost, and if you don't have a frost, then through the spring. And it is the most gorgeous buttery yellow long spike. They are 2.5 feet long bloom spikes, and the hummingbirds and butterflies and native bees love this salvia. It is like any other salvia. It has this square stalk, and it is virtually like all my salvia, just no fuss. You know, pests don't mess with it. The thing that I ran into last year with some of the salvia is it really hated our intense heat. We had a lot of excessive heat warnings last year. You've heard me talk about this, which was unusual for us. And we would have days where the feels like temperature was 120 degrees with, 98% humidity. And the plants really did not do well. I did have some, in this salvia, I did have some scorching on the plant leaves, and I did lose a couple salvia in the summer, the Granitica types, because they just did not handle that heat. And we had drought last year too, which was unusual for us. So that's about the only thing that I've had with this that I can mention with this salvia. So if you do find this and you do have this available, I do see it at certain times of the year in some of your nurseries. I highly would recommend trying it in a shade garden. It's so beautiful, and it will grow. It will have a nice tall interest to it. I will stake it if it gets a little bit too tall, just with a bamboo stick, and it just performs so wonderfully in the garden. So I'm super excited to have all these new salvia sprouts. I only had a couple of plants here, and then I replaced them. I had a loss from the prior year and replaced with a couple of plants, and now I have a much larger display, which I'm really, really happy to see. And then on my north end of this shade bed, I have a pipevine that actually is a vine, and this is called the woolly Dutchman's pipe. It also has very large leaves, and it just started to come to life. And I have it next to my red tip so it can grow up the red tip. So I have this planted right next to my ground cover, and both of these are the host plant to that gorgeous pipevine swallowtail butterfly. So you've heard me mention Coleus. I also have Caladiums. So let me go down to this other end. So I do have 3 medium-sized pots of Caladiums, and I have so far been very fortunate to have my Caladiums come back from the tubers or the bulbs. The thing about Caladiums is they need it warm, and so we've had it, golly, we had one day this week down into the 40s at night. From now on in the forecast, it looks like it's going to be 50s and 60s at night, so Caladiums will probably start to come up within the next 2 to 3 weeks, maybe now between the next 2 to 3 weeks, and so I will then have Caladiums. I also purchased, and this is a first for me, so let me show you what I purchased. This could be a hit or a miss for me. I've not done this before, but I purchased Caladiums from Costco, and they are from Longfield Gardens, even though this one isn't labeled as such. It is when you dig in deeper where the caladiums come from. And I'm excited to plant these. I've not planted them yet because caladiums need that warmth. So I didn't want to put them in the ground until we are going to have that warmth, which now we are. And so I will be putting these in the ground shortly. And let me show you where I'm going to put some. So I have got along this fence, not planters, but landscape plastic landscaping border, if you will. Let me get a little bit closer. So last year along our fence, the last 2 summers, we've grown cardinal climber. And on this side of the fence, which is our east fence, the cardinal climber doesn't do as great. Let me move to the north. The north side of the fence does gorgeously. And so we are planting cardinal climber here again. And this is what we do. I'm going to get a little closer. So we use this landscaping border to actually create a little bit of a raised bed. And you can see we've planted our cardinal climber already for this year, and they've sprouted up for their first set of leaves. And then they will grow up on our fence. And my husband created, with fishing line, created a design on the fence. So over on this side, oh, you can see, look at all that standing water from our rain. On this side is where I'm going to be putting in caladiums. Just ignore the weeds. They sprouted up with this wonderful rain. And I'm going to be planting caladiums along this side of the fence. So in my mind's eye, these will be caladiums, which are sun/shade caladiums. And that was one of the reasons why the cardinal climber didn't do so well on this side, was because it didn't get enough sun. And so I believe the caladiums, at least I hope, that they will thrive on that side of the fence. And then right next to it comes right into the shade bed or the shade garden. And so I've got a couple of pots that I will be planting up some of these caladiums in. This one is a really beautiful pink color. It's a type called Fanny Munson, which I've looked up, and it's a really stunning pink like the picture shows. And then this one's pretty much a variety. There's Red Flash, Carolyn Wharton, White Queen, and White Christmas. And so the combos look pretty interesting. I do like this for color. And in a shade garden, I was noticing what I was really wanting in the heuchera that didn't do well here. I can achieve with the color of the leaves with both the caladiums and the coleus. And so I will be planting up a couple more pots. If by chance these caladiums don't come up and they didn't survive our winter, then I will be replacing those. So that's my vision anyway for this year in the shade garden. I do have a couple more coleus that I was able to purchase at my favorite nursery that I didn't plant in the ground. I probably will plant those also in containers. I did plant this one last year and I loved how it looked. It got about 3 feet tall and branched gorgeously. And that one was called Ignite Special Effects. And so I did get a couple more, but I do not have plans for those as of yet. So I'm curious, what do you do in your shade garden? I know all across the US there's just so many different microclimates and soil types and dryness and humidity and high heat and low heat and long growing seasons and short growing seasons. And so for some, the plants are so different than for others. So in the South, I have found this combination to just be wonderful. I can't wait to show you as this progresses on and it grows to show you. Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope you're able to join me again soon.